The reality is, and when I say this next statement, it's on stickers, I say it on national TV, and I challenge you, Coca-Cola, to sue me for libel. If I can't back up this next statement, sue me. You've got all these high-priced lawyers, sue me. But truth is a great defense, and that's why I don't care.
Hi, my name is Nancy. I'm making a documentary film about a man I met over 20 years ago. His name is Ray. I was a photography student in New York, and I saw in the news that the National Guard was called out in Austin, Minnesota at the Hormel workers' strike. Ray was brought in to help the striking workers. I decided to photograph the strike, and when I got to Austin, Ray was in jail, charged with criminal syndicalism, a charge that had not been used against anybody since 1920. Let me introduce the subject of the film, Ray.
I've got a funny story to tell. A few years after the Austin situation, I asked Nancy to go to Princeton Farms to take some photos of the horrible working conditions there. So Nancy snuck into the farm, was taking pictures, saw she was being watched by management, and she runs into the bathroom. And where she took out the film, put another film in the camera, rewound it, and stuck the film in her boot, and then she got arrested and jailed, but she still ended up with the pictures. They never got them. Nancy got out of that mushroom plant, arrested and jailed, and still got the photos I asked for.
In 2008, Ray asked me to videotape a speech he was giving at Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts. He was speaking to students across the country in an ongoing campaign to kick Coke products off campuses.
The reality is that the world of Coca-Cola is a world full of lies, deception, immorality, corruption, and widespread labor, human rights, and environmental abuses. It's also a world where top executives operate in a culture of unbridled greed, giving themselves hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses and stock options while laying off thousands of employees and turning other employees into non-employees called subcontracted workers that receive minimal pay, have no job security, have no future with the company, and are fired when they try to join the union.
After watching that speech and seeing the way his words resonated with students today, as they had when I was a student, I decided that I would follow him around with a video camera documenting his various activities. This led me to the tobacco fields of eastern North Carolina, where he is working with Flock, a farm labor union, to improve the dismal working and living conditions of the migrant tobacco harvesters there. At the annual shareholders meeting of Reynolds Tobacco in 2010, Ray joined farm workers and their supporters to move the struggle from the fields to the corporate headquarters in Winston-Salem. He also created a mobile billboard to drive around Winston-Salem, highlighting the fact that the CEO of Reynolds made $42 million in 3 years. It would take a worker 4,000 years picking tobacco to earn this salary.
I thank each of the directors for their hard work and for the many hours of support that they have provided to our company and to its shareholders over the past year.
Excuse me, sir. If you will not take a seat, we will need to ask you to leave the meeting. So please take a seat.
If the nominees and the board are considered part of the leadership teams, which I expect they are, If that's not the case, I'm a shareholder, I have a right. If that's not the case, I'm sorry, folks. I'm going to ask this question. I'm involved in something now because a lot of people ask, well, what are you doing? I took a pretty good, we'll say, slamming and arrest and for just trying to answer a question at an annual shareholders meeting. And when you understand what is happening with many of these Mexican workers and why you have so many coming in from Mexico, is just realize the government policies and the programs they call the national NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement and things like that, where they literally force 2 million peasants off of these farmlands. And what do? They come in to the country, they're looking for a way to survive. And as I've worked with workers in Mexico, in Colombia, in Guatemala, let me tell you something. They have a knowledge, they have a history, and they're some of the toughest people you could ever meet and never fight with. And again, I'm going to reiterate what Jim and others have said. Do not let this company, this corporate greed, put a line, create divisions between you and these immigrant workers. If there's anything to do when you see an immigrant worker, do what people did when I moved to East Harlem. And I was only second white face going into that complex. Welcome. Welcome.